Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan, and today we're going to be checking out the brand new ThunderCats Ultimates Lion-O action figure from the folks over at Super7. So, before we dive in, let's get a little bit of background information on this. This line started out back at Mattel under the title ThunderCats Classics, but Mattel only released a handful of figures, and unfortunately that line was canceled before we even got the main team completed. Luckily, Super7 announced that the ThunderCats license was one of the licenses they were picking up to be part of their new Ultimates line of figures, which was basically a bunch of modern 7-inch scale action figures in the same style as Masters of the Universe Classics, which is what ThunderCats Classics was at Mattel. So when they announced this, the first thing they did was they launched it with 4 figures for this first wave, pre-orders, which gave us 4 figures we already got from Mattel, including Lion-O here. Now, this is a good thing because it allowed fans to jump on and get these if they missed them back at Mattel, or rebuy them if they ended up selling them off because Mattel had canceled the line. But it did also kind of have a bit of a whimper at the beginning because it started off with figures that we already had. Now, it's also been a very long delay between the pre-orders of these and them starting to finally ship. So it's going to be really interesting to kind of look at these. There's a bunch of other figures that we already know of at this point that are coming out past this. So in this video, we're going to take a look at this Lion-O figure from Super7. We'll compare it to the Mattel release and just kind of look at what Super7's going to be offering us with this new line of ThunderCats Ultimates figures. And let's start with the packaging, because you can see it's very similar to what Super7's been doing with all of their new Ultimates figures. They're in these really nice boxes. I think it's very, very cool. Looks like we're going with a black and red color scheme. It's just got the ThunderCats logo on the back of the slipcover. The front has got the ThunderCats emblem, and it's all shiny. Look, you can see my face. Hi. It's very, very shiny. So, interestingly, it doesn't look very good on camera because of the way the lights are hitting it, but in person, there you go. That looks cool. That shiny reflective red looks really neat on the front of this slipcover. So we can slide this off the top of the box, and that reveals our window box that fully showcases the action figure, and you can see all the accessories. So that is one thing that they've done with this, is they've given us some new accessories that the Mattel version did not come with. I mean, we've got interchangeable heads, we've got different versions of the claw gauntlet that he wears, so there's some real cool stuff. The Book of Omens is in there. And then the back of the packaging has got some classic ThunderCats artwork, as well as a bio for Lion-O at the bottom of that packaging. So, box is really cool. This is what to expect from the new Super7 line of ThunderCats Ultimates. There's the Ultimates logo on the top. So let's go ahead and get this opened up and check out the figure inside. All right, we've got Lion-O outside of his packaging, so let's go ahead and bring in the tape measure so you guys can see that the figure stands right there at 7 inches tall, just as expected. So it's a 7-inch scale toy line, so most of your main characters are going to be standing right there about that size. And this is basically identical, from what I can tell, to the release from Mattel, with the exception of all of the new accessories that we're going to be taking a look at here in just a bit. So I want to go ahead and just start this review off by doing the comparison between the two figures, because I think that's what a lot of people are going to be really, really interested to see. So I'm standing them here side by side. Of course, I've got the weapons already on our Mattel version here, but here you can see what they look like side by side. The sculpts do appear to be the same between the figures, and the paint deco is similar, but there are some differences that I want to point out. First of all, you can see that the Mattel one's got a brighter red on the hair, as opposed to the Super7 one. It's a little bit of a deeper red used on the Super7 one there. And you know, the skin tone is a bit of a darker color as well on the Super7 one. So it almost seems like the colors have a bit more of a darker tone to them overall on the Super7 release compared to the Mattel release. My Mattel one's got a really sloppy paint job on the belt down here, so it's nice to see that it's a little cleaner on the Super7 one. You can also see the trim, like the dark blue trim on his costume, is a lot darker. It's much more pronounced on the Super7 version versus that Mattel version there. The boots are very similar. Again, you can see the darker skin tone basically going on with the Super7 one. But I will say, like, it looks good. They're very, very similar, but you can kind of tell them apart. Yeah, those boots are a bit more of a muted blue on the new one. It's a bit more vibrant on the Mattel one. So I would say the Mattel figure overall does seem a tad more vibrant than the Super 7 one, but I do feel like the Super 7 one is still nicely painted. It's got some good shading and everything in the arms, which I really like. So he looks pretty nice in comparison. The swords are quite a bit different. So let's go ahead and just do that real quick. So this is the Mattel sword right here. This is the Super 7 sword. It's a totally different sculpt, which is not something I was expecting. The Super 7 one has a skinnier blade. It doesn't look like it's longer, but it's skinnier. So that's honestly probably more accurate. It does not have a metallic silver paint deco like the Mattel one does. The Mattel one, the blade itself is metallic silver, while the hilt is just cast in a gray or silver plastic. This one is just all the same color plastic. The only thing that they painted was the green and the red and the black, but everything else is left unpainted. So I like the shiny silver on the blade better on the Mattel one, but I do like the overall skinnier blade. Look, the handle's actually a bit longer on the Super 7 one too. I don't know if you can see that. So I wasn't expecting that. That's really interesting to see that the Sword of Omens is a totally different sculpt. And look at the ThunderCats logos. Very, very different between the two. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, let's get back over to the figure here, and let's talk about the articulation on this guy. Should be the same as before. If you're familiar with the Ultimates figures, you probably know what to expect. We do got a ball joint here at the neck. We've got the ball-like hinges at the shoulder, so the arms can go outwards, forwards, backwards. We can swivel at the biceps, standard single joint at the elbow, swivels and hinges at the wrist joints there. We've got the ab crunch. It's a bit loose. I really don't like that. Look at the way he bobs around. That's the loosest joint on this figure. Otherwise, the joints are really, really nice and tight on this guy. But man, I really, really don't like that. I hate when my figures do that. Ugh. So we've got the ball-like hinges at the thighs, so legs can go outwards, move forwards and backwards. You can see that the trunks are softer, pliable plastic, which does allow for the movement there. We've got swivels at the thigh cut. You got standard single joints at the knees, which are very tight on this guy. And then you've got swivels at the boot cut, and then the ankles can move forwards and backwards, as well as rock side to side, and those also are very tight. So the articulation is really good on this guy, with the exception of my ab crunch being way, way too loose. Now, luckily, it's not like flopping around when I'm just posing him to stand on the shelf. Like, it's not just like falling backwards or anything, but still, I definitely would like to see that joint be a lot tighter than it is. So now we can talk about all of those accessories. So first of all, he does come with several sets of interchangeable hands. You might notice that out of the package, he's got these kind of open hands, like where he's showing his claws, which are really, really cool. So in addition to that, we've got two different types of gripping hands, though I will say they look very, very similar. I mean, look at that. There's not a whole lot of difference there. I guess maybe the angle that he would be holding onto his weapon, but they're very similar. So you can easily just remove the joint there, right there at the wrist, and then you can take the new hand. You can pop it in place. It's a good solid lock, and that's going to be good for holding onto the Sword of Omens or any of your other accessories. He does also have an interchangeable head, so we can pop the head off at the ball joint. It's a bit tight, but it's a very similar ball joint to what we've seen in the past. And then we can bring in the new head here, which you got to give a little bit of firm press, especially the first time there, and you can clip it on in place. And I really like the head sculpt here because this is a very angry Lion-O. This is a Lion-O that is ready for some action. Teeth gritting, crinkles on the nose. I'm really happy to see the included head here. I think that's a really, really nice head sculpt. Okay, so in addition to all of those interchangeable hands, he does also come with several versions of the claw shield. And look at that, we've actually got 4 different ones. That's because we've got 2 that are designed for hanging off of his hip and 2 that are designed for being worn on his left hand. Now, this is what's really interesting. Super 7 gave us 2 different versions of the claw shield. You've got the version that's furry, which is the one that was with the Mattel figure, but we've also got a new one that's got a smooth, detailed sculpt that's got more of a shiny gold in color. So look at that. Honestly, I think the smooth one is a bit more close to what it looked like in the animation as opposed to the overly detailed one with the fur sculpt. It's cool that we get both because now you can decide which one you would rather put on your figure. If you want him to wear it, it actually works as an interchangeable hand. So you're going to pop off the wrist there, and then you can see there's a peg joint right there on the inside. So just kind of line that up, and then boom, you can clip it on, and now we've got Lion-O with his claw shield. Now those other ones are meant to hang off of his side. So we've got 2 of them here. They're a little bit flatter, so that's supposed to be like, because his hand's not in them. And then you notice that there's like this little peg sticking off the side of the figure, and then there's like this little peg hole that's on the clip on both of these. So these can be attached to a side just by popping it right there. And that way, I mean, obviously right now we've got them with both, but you can hang it off of his side if you want to display them that way. One thing that's really interesting, the furry sculpted version has the handle for the Sword of Omens, but it is non-removable. It is part of the sculpt. However, on the other one, the smooth one, you can see that the Sword of Omens is removable. So this gives us our tiny version of the Sword of Omens, where you can see the Eye of Thundera painted right there on it. So that is very cool. So that can be sheathed right there at a side. Now there should be some space on the gauntlet on his arm so that we can also store it there if you wanted to keep it there, but I can't get it to fit in all the way. So actually let's pull this off and let's take a closer look at it, because it does look like it's got a little, embedded little spot in there, but it doesn't go in all the way. There's actually no slot at the bottom to slide this in. Now if you look at the furry one, which again was the one that came with the Mattel figure, it actually does fit in there a lot better. So let's go ahead and put this claw glove on his arm just to make sure that this works. It does, so it still doesn't go in all the way, though it does fit a little bit better. So, it doesn't plug in all the way down, but if you do want to store it on his arm while he's wearing the claw glove, it does look like you can do that if you want to. So, of course, then there's that other Sword of Omens, which we already took a look at here at the beginning. We've got to pose that on the actual figure here so that you can see what he looks like holding on to it. It's, again, similar to what we already saw with Mattel, but it is really cool seeing him holding on to this new sword. You should be able to kind of get it where you can do the sight beyond sight pose. He's got the hinged wrists and everything. His arms are a bit, like he doesn't have the double jointed elbows, so it doesn't get quite flush up to his face as you would like it to, but you can get him in that pose in a sense. And man, he does look really cool holding on to the Sword of Omens with the claw shield on his arm. And lastly, he comes with the Book of Omens, which is a fun new accessory here. It's just a solid piece of plastic. It doesn't actually open or anything like that, but it is really nice. It's got a very similar kind of gold paint deco to the one claw shield that he's wearing. It's got the ThunderCats emblem on there, and it's always cool getting some of these additional artifacts that come straight out of the animated series for toys just like this. All right, guys, it's comparison time again, because now I'm just going to stand them alongside the vintage Lion-O action figure from LJN just for fun. Of course, that original figure that everybody loves was bright orange, not really accurate to the way the character appeared on screen. This new figure definitely has more of the regular tone for Lion-O, but I got to be honest, I would totally love to see a repaint that looks like the vintage LJN figure. I think that'd be awesome. So there you go, my friends. That's a look at the brand new Ultimates Lion-O action figure from the folks over at Super7. All in all, I feel like this is a really solid figure. It's not much different than the one that we already got before. So if you already have the Mattel one, this will maybe hopefully help you decide if you really need to get the new one or not. The best thing about the new one are all of the new accessories. I like the new claw shield quite a bit. I think the interchangeable head is really, really nice. The biggest downfall for me personally is that super loose joint at the ab crunch. I don't like that his upper body is so floppy, but otherwise the rest of the articulation seems super solid here. So it's a nice first outing, and I'm definitely anxious to see what else Super7 gives us with the rest of their ThunderCats lineup. So this was sold via pre-order only through Super7, because that's the way they do their sales. However, this whole first wave is still in stock at places like Big Bad Toy Store for the same retail price that Super7 originally sold them at. So if you guys do want to order them, head on over there. I'll put the link in the video description. Guys, thank you so very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button, leave me a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time.